welcome to the 5 steps to getting back to wellness naturally with me, Richard Flook. It is going to be an hour, time to share with you some information that I think you would have never seen combined quite in this way before. And that's what I want to go through with you. So let's get into the first slide here. Before we start, really, it might be just worthwhile me just saying, who is this for? This is for you to understand how to work alongside what you are doing right now, okay? This is not something that's going to replace what you already do. It's for you to do something that you're already doing right now. And these 5 steps will assist you to quickly find and clear the stressful issues that cause chronic illness with the tools you're already using. And if you want to take a different look at healing yourself naturally and your clients naturally. And this is who this is really for. Okay, so let's go on to the second slide. And so what we're going to cover is why use these 5 steps. I'm also going to go through a few stories of clients who have used the 5 steps, and we're going to explore each one of the 5 steps and their background. These aren't something that I just came up with overnight. I've been involved in this particular field for 25 years. So I've been exploring all sorts of different modalities. And I think that you'll like what we're about to go through. So, and it's also how can you apply the 5 steps in your work, and hopefully be able to answer some questions you may have. And also you might want to book some time with me to explore what your needs are as well. Before we get into that, because we're working in a health field, we're looking at people's health, with your clients' health, and I'm sure this is going to make complete sense to you, but I do need to do it anyway. It's doing due diligence, and it's basically this. If you or your clients are suffering from any form of medical or psychological issue or pain, if you've not already done so, go see your doctor and tell them what's happening to you. Doctors are really well trained in understanding what is going on. And of course, we're looking at getting back to wellness naturally. There are some cases where, in fact, many cases where you really do need to know what's going on. And doctors have some incredible answers that can assist you in finding what's really going on and then finding other solutions. Because I think that's the problem. Often we, especially if you're in the natural world, we don't know everything. And I think it's important that we see a doctor first to just find out what is exactly going on. Okay, so why use the 5 steps? A couple of questions for you. Are you frustrated that your clients are not getting well as quickly as you'd like them to? Are you asking yourself, am I missing something? Do you ever see yourself as a band-aid solution as your clients keep coming back for the same problem over and over again? That's not what you genuinely want, I'm sure, for your clients, is it? So what if there was a way for you to quickly find and clear the underlying problems, the root of your client's issues? So, and do you ask yourself these questions? If I only knew what caused the disease, well, then I could really assist my clients. And what causes healing to stop as well? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but you work with a client and suddenly their healing stops. Why? And what causes excruciating pain? And this is something that really challenged me. And how could I find that and assist my client to heal? And what causes a chronic illness? Why won't those illnesses just move? We've done all the work, but why do they keep coming back over and over again? And what causes your client to fail? Even if you've done all those other things, what causes them to fail and not stick with what they, will cause them? If they just go over that hump, then they'll get well. So what causes them to fail? So who am I? Let's just quickly do this. It's my most favorite subject, obviously. But I think you need to know who I am. My name is Richard Flook. I'm an author and an international speaker. I'm also author of the book, Why Am I Sick? And How to Find Out What's Really Wrong Using Advanced Clearing Energetics. And I'll just share you some of the stuff around advanced clearing energetics as we go through the 5 steps. I've been teaching this to people for over 20 years and to thousands of students worldwide. And I've taught everybody from mums and dads, practitioners, nurses, doctors, surgeons, psychiatrists, top blue chip companies as well. I've gone into those and taught this material. And I've been a speaker at large conferences around the world. So, and as you can see, I've been in this business or in the energetic field for many, many, many years. Okay, so let's get straight into a little bit about the history of the 5 steps. And as I said, I've been in this whole field for many, many years. And my way of looking at it is that I've always found that there are problems, that there are issues that occur. And especially as you are working with modalities. And I've also noticed as well, people will say, oh, you should go off and do this, or you should go off and do this therapy, or this natural way, or whatever it is. And because there have been people that have cured themselves using this particular intervention or this particular natural remedy. And that sort of disappointed me, because I thought, well, I've got a solution, and I've had clients do the same and they've got well, but they didn't do this thing you're saying. So I've gone off and explored that thing that they're saying. And what I discovered was the success of many of these energetic therapies, which clients and other practitioners often claim to be able to heal in their own right. They worked because the person combined that therapy with other healing modalities. Often, those other healing modalities were unconscious, and that was the thing. That was really the thing that made me go, okay, so what were those unconscious things? And here they are. What are these other healing modalities? These are the 5 steps to getting you back to wellness naturally. So the thing that I realized that you needed to do, and what people were doing consciously and unconsciously, was they were redressing their stress. And then they were releasing toxins, doing a detox. They were also reducing their inflammation. And then they were also reclaiming their environment and also raising their energy. So that's essentially what I discovered. And the combination of all those 5 things is really amazing, because there really are only 5 things that you need to do in order to get yourself and your clients back to wellness. So that takes me back to the history of the 5 steps, because the answer then is to consciously combine each one of the 5 steps to wellness naturally, the ones we've just talked about, therefore stacking the chance of complete healing in your favor as a practitioner and yourself. But how do you do that? Because releasing or finding the stress and doing the toxicity stuff and dealing with inflammation and changing your environment and also raising one's energy, there's more to it than just sort of doing those on their own. You have to do them in 2 ways. And the first way is you need to work on the inside. So you need to do the mental work. And also inside you've got to put the right things inside your body, the food that you put inside your body, not only food, but also other chemicals that you might put inside your body as well. And how do you do the 5 steps? On the outside is you've also got to work on the outside. So you actually have to do physical work outside. You actually have to do something, say, for example, with relationships or one's workplace. And the workplace could be where you live. For example, my wife is a stay-at-home mum, and she said to me one day when I was working down in the main floor that we have in the house, she said, look, I really don't like you working here. And I said, why? And she said, well, because you have an office upstairs and you also have other places that you can work. And this is my office here. This is where I bring up Oliver, our son. And I went, that's really important. So I took all my stuff, all my work stuff, and put it in my office. So that's my workplace, and she has her workplace. And I think that was a really important thing to actually say. Okay. So throughout the webinar, I will explain each step with those two sides. It's how to use the 5 steps by explaining how to use the 2 sides to get back to wellness. So we're going to look at it inside and outside. So we're going to look at it internally and externally. How do you apply these things? And I'm also going to share with you what types of interventions you could use in each case, and show you what I discovered and developed during my 25 years of working in this field. So let's go and explore each of those steps individually. So the first step is to redress your stress. And that really answers, remember those questions I talked about, which was the first one here, is what causes a disease to occur? So there was a recent massive realization that I had. Honestly, I mean, this is a really quite a pinnacle moment, and it only happened in the last couple of months. And I know it sounds so silly, but because I've been in this field for 25 years, but it is such an obvious thing. And it's this: you cannot heal yourself or even your clients unless you deal with the underlying stressful events. Something I coined a UDIN, and I'll go through what that is, that cause your issue or your client's issue to occur in the first place. So you cannot heal yourself unless you deal with the underlying stressful events that cause your issue to occur in the first place. Okay? So obvious, you may say, but many people, and what I notice with the 5 steps, is they'll go off, they'll detoxify their body, they'll change their diet, they'll get rid of old relationships, they'll go off and do yoga, but they haven't addressed that UDIN moment. And I'll show you exactly what I mean, because I've got a little video there that will explain that for you. So what causes a disease is something that is unexpected, dramatic, isolating, where we have no strategy. It's what I call is a UDIN moment. It is a sickening shock. It is a specific stressful event. And let me give you an example of one. Let's say that a person is happily married and has been for, say, 30 years. They've got children, car, house, everything. Live in a beautiful area with lots and lots of great friends around them. And everything's idyllic and wonderful. And then one of the partners walks in one day, comes into the front door. You know, they don't knock their door, but they come into the front door and they gingerly say, I got something to tell you. And so they say, sit down. The other partner's heart starts beating, because the heart actually knows what's going to happen before it actually happens. And the person, and that's amazing stuff, by the way, that theory. But basically the person sits down and the other person says, just coming through the door, I've been sleeping with your best friend. That's a UDIN moment, especially if it was unexpected. Dramatic as well. I mean, you think about it, 30 years of living with that person and isolating. I don't know about you, but the one person that you would want to speak to, your best friend, you can't. And obviously then all the other friends probably know about this going on at the same time. And there's no strategy for dealing with that, is there? You know, you're sitting there going, well, you know, get on to eHarmony, which is a big dating agency over here in North America, where I live. That's not going to happen, is it? So, you know, that's what causes a disease. And that is something I coined, which was a UDIN moment. So what happens to the UDIN moment is the UDIN energetically lands in the heart. And that's why I said about the heart beating earlier. It lands in the heart because the heart has its own nervous system. Then it travels up to the brain and the central nervous system as well. And then it travels down and enters into the belly, into what is called the enteric nervous system. We have 3 separate nervous systems that can actually function independently of the other ones. Then an organ that is vibrating at the same frequency as the UDIN moment goes to work. So let me give you an example. Let's say that person, the event is such that they're disgusted by it, okay? then it would land in their pancreas. They're disgusted. Life was all sugary and sweet, and now it's revolting and unpleasant, so it lands in the pancreas. Or let's say that the event is shitty and horrible, so then it lands in their guts. Let's say that they feel weak and they haven't got enough strength, and it might land in their bones or in their musculature. Or let's say that they feel as if they've been violated, their territory has been taken away, they socially feel outcast, and it actually lands in their brains and can cause things like depression, where they would just sit in bed and sleep. So all these things land in specific organs for specific reasons. And it is that organ later on that we will notice, or the person will notice, that becomes diseased. And that is what causes a disease. So what does one of these eudaimoments look like? Well, I have a little video for you that will show you that.
Completely worthless excuse for a man that I've ever met. What kind of father are you? You are the most completely worthless excuse for a man that I've ever met. What kind of caregiver are you? What do you have to show forth to your kids? Completely worthless excuse for a man that I've ever met. What kind of father are you? You are the most completely worthless excuse for a man that I've ever met. What kind of caregiver are you? What do you have to show forth to your kids?
This is a eudaimoment. It's a trapped piece of information, you could call it that, like an energy ball of information that lasts about 10 to 15 seconds. And it lands, as I said, that piece of information lands inside the heart and in the brain, in the belly, and then the organ. And that piece of information is that eudaimoment. It's sort of stuck. It's incomplete, just like that situation there, where this woman is just going round and round and round and round. So it's incomplete, and that's basically what we're talking about here. And that's what a eudaimoment looks like. It sounds like it also has a feeling to it, and essentially that's what's going on there. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So if we now know what a eudaimoment is, and we want to work with our clients, then wouldn't it make sense that we deal with that? Now, the problem I found is, like I said, there are two ways that you need to deal with it. So we need to redress that stress. And the first thing you need to do is you need to do the outside work with your client, and even with yourself if you've got a problem. And let's face it, we've all got problems. But we need to do the outside work. And the first thing that we need to do is to fess up. We need to own up. We need to stop denying the obvious elephant that's in the room. I've known people that have been through those types of shocks, the type of shock I talked about earlier, and you say, well, that's a problem. And they go, no, that person really, they really deserve to go off and find happiness. No, they didn't. You're talking about an elephant in the room. You were just thrown out of your house, and you lost your loved one, and you lost your life. Let's be obvious about it. It's an elephant in the room. So stop denying you have an issue and recognize you have a problem. Oh yeah, that's probably true. And stop trying to work it out on your own as well. Because a lot of people, they shut up and they don't tell anybody, and they try and work this through on their own. The thing is, you can't deal with your stuff when you're in it. Okay? You just can't. I've tried, and so many of my students have tried as well, and they'll all tell you you can't deal with your own stuff when you're in it. Okay, so instead, take action to deal with it. That's the outside world that you have to do here, and this is what your clients need to do. Now, the inside work as well is doing something like EFT and its derivatives like matrix reimprinting or emotrance or something like that. This is not an exhausted list, by the way. Or hypnosis or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or NLP, which could involve timeline therapy, or EMDR, which is a derivative from NLP, or psychotherapy, or theta healing. And there are loads and loads of amazing techniques. And there's one of my good friends, the lovely Karen Davidson from How to Tap. And this is what I found out. There was a stumbling block. So what causes, and I think you'll understand, a disease to occur is a Uden moment. But how do you quickly find that Uden moment and clear it? And how you combine that solution with what you're currently doing. And this is what I've been spending the last 25 years working out, is my work in advanced clean energetics allows you to do just that. So I want you to actually see a little bit of a video. And this is with my yoga teacher called Alexander Evans. And on this video, she'll just talk to you about that whole idea. Do you remember I said you need to deal with the Uden moment first? Now, why is this a significant video? It's because of this. This is a yoga teacher, right? So she eats really well. She hasn't got a lot of toxic stuff inside the system. She doesn't have inflammation. She's a yoga teacher. They just don't. She deals with the environment. She works in a really lovely place. She has a lovely apartment as well. Not I've ever seen it, but you might see it in the back of her in the back of the video here. She's got a nice place. I know she talks about her apartment whenever I've spoken to her, and so she's got a good environment. And also she is very energetically aware. But she had a problem, and it almost debilitated her, and she had a Uden moment which we dealt with. So I'm going to load the video here and have a listen to it. It's about 1 minute and 54 seconds long.
My name's Alex, and I recently just did a session with Richard Flook. I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm also a yoga studio owner, and I'm studying to become an osteopath. So I'm generally quite healthy. I eat well, I exercise, I'm conscious to get body work done frequently, but I recently suffered a pretty bad flu that kind of came on after I'd experienced some difficult stuff in my personal life. And within about half an hour of doing the session with Richard, a lot of my symptoms were subsiding. The flu lasted for almost 2 weeks for me. And I got the chills and the fever and this terrible chest congestion, this terrible cough, exhaustion, basically the typical flu symptoms, bedridden for 5 or 6 days. And so anyway, within a few minutes of working with Richard, my sinuses cleared. I felt like my energy was coming back, and we worked through a lot of the emotional stuff that I think was causing the flu to come on, and the illness. So we released all of that, and I felt so much better within 24 hours. I turned the corner and felt like I was well on my way to recovery, and 2 days later, completely over it. So I really recommend working with Richard. He's fantastic at getting to the root of a lot of the deeper emotional stuff that you might not even realize that you're holding on to and carrying around, but it is in some way affecting your personal life, your professional life, and preventing you from moving forward to live a better life. So my experience working with him has been profound, and it's helped me a lot, specifically getting over this terrible flu. So yeah, thanks.
Isn't that amazing? I think you probably get an understanding is that you need to clear the Uden moments first when you're working with your clients or even yourself. And how do you do that? Well, how can you quickly find and clear them? And that, I said, is my work. So once you've cleared the Udens, your body now needs to address some other things before it can start to heal itself. And those other things are, you need to release your toxins. And that the answer to the question, what causes healing to stop? So the question, though, is, but why do you need to detoxify? Your cells' ability to heal themselves is severely hindered if the environment the cells are living in is a toxic soup. Something I now know quite well, because it always worried me. People say you need to detoxify. And I said, no, I'm eating well. No, there are lots of things going on inside our society nowadays which are just really unpleasant, and our bodies cannot deal with this. Not only can we not deal with what's going on externally, we also can't deal with the intensity of life as it is and all the problems that we come across. So in your everyday life, you are subjected to a multitude of toxic products. These include foods, genetically modified organisms or GMOs, herbicides, pesticides, chemicals used in manufacturing, which create pollution, and electromagnetic forces like cell phones, computers, and Wi-Fi. And yes, a very big topic at the moment over here, vaccines as well. Why are they toxic? Because they're full of very unpleasant things inside the vaccines in order that the vaccine can be stored and put inside a body. Okay, so here's the problem. We are told the food on our tables is 100% healthy for us to eat. We're also told that pesticides and herbicides sprayed on our food are 100% safe. We're also repeatedly told vaccines are 100% safe. But when you do the research, you find that big corporations buy politicians and pay scientists to fabricate the truth about these things for their own profit, and enormous amounts of profit. So they don't give a damn about you or me. So let's go on to the history of step 2 to release the toxins. And how did I find this out? Whilst doing research for my next book, How Can I Heal, which is going to be published through Hay House as well, I was looking into toxins and food. And I was feeling continuously unwell. My belly was extended, even though I was eating a healthy diet. And then one of my students mentioned, had I considered the impact of GMOs in my diet, genetically modified food, basically, in my diet. Now I was living in Canada. I'm obviously English, and I've been living in Canada for a couple of years. And I was incensed to find out that I didn't know that practically everything I was eating had been fed with genetically modified foods. I was literally so horrified by what I discovered. I wrote a book about it. And it's called Why Shouldn't I Eat Genetically Modified Foods? Which you can actually get if you want as a download. So I haven't actually published it in a hard copy. But it really did incense me so much because I just found out, for example, I come from England, and in England, genetically modified foods are labeled. So you knew what you were eating. And over here, they categorically, these large companies do not want you to know what's inside your food. So you don't know what toxic chemicals are being put inside your food. Let's just talk briefly about vaccines as well. I wrote a whole piece on to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. They don't tell you what they're actually putting inside these vaccines. So again, you're putting toxic stuff inside yourself. There are other things. For example, often governments are in bed with large companies, and so you've got toxic chemicals inside your furniture and paint and other things, and so on and so forth, and even inside the air. So how do you deal with all of that, especially if you are working with a client and you want to educate that client? Well, you need to tell them to do the outside work. You need to change your diet so the body can eliminate toxins. You need to remove genetically modified organisms or anything that's genetically modified from their diet. Why? The body cannot deal with that stuff. There's also animal proteins that are fed on GMOs, and practically all fish as well are now they're fed on genetically modified foods, or your pigs, your farming animals, your beef, practically everything is now chickens. That's the one I want to say, are all fed on genetically modified grains. And don't think you're going to get away with this in Europe, because there is a mass of this stuff coming from North America being shoved down the throat of the farmers. And because if you have an animal and you can feed them with incredibly cheap grain, then which is coming from North America here, then it can reduce your costs, and you don't have to label that the animal has been fed with genetically modified grain. And that goes for fish as well, especially intensely farmed fish. And I'm going to just talk briefly about fish, because some recent research is showing that fish is probably some of the most toxic protein on the planet now. Our water has been full of mercury and plastics and the like, and so the fish, if you start eating bigger fish, they really are not as good as we thought they were. So you also remove heavy metals, and that's amalgam fillings and anything that is related to heavy metals. You also, the answer is you need to eat organic food, because organic food does not have pesticides and herbicides on it. And what about water? In many countries, especially in North America and I know in Europe, they fluoridate the water, and they don't use proper fluoride chemicals. They use industrial fluoride, which is disastrous. We don't need that. Fluoride, by the way, it's horrible in our bodies. Topically on the teeth, maybe okay, but ingesting it internally, it's a neurotoxin. So we don't need it, and it's literally the only drug that we have no choice as to whether we have it or not. We also need to do enemas, which will allow us to flush the liver. Fasting and vegetable juicing, another way to actually reduce the toxins. But there's another piece, and this came from a very horrible situation that I went through. And when I realized that you need to do the inside work. And so here's a little example of that, was that I was doing some work to just get my business out there. And like all of us, we need to just tell people what we're doing. So I employed a particular guy to help me with my marketing. And this guy, the marketing wasn't working correctly. It wasn't me. So I actually stopped the campaign. I went into my websites and the like and just changed all the passwords and told him, look, we've got to stop. And I did that because I knew he wouldn't stop. And then he went into my PayPal account and stole all my money, which was just like, wow, that's horrendous. And even PayPal then said, oh yes, well, you do owe him that money. And I said, I don't. Anyway, he got around a loophole within PayPal, and I had to give him that money. So I had then a really horrible, toxic individual sitting inside me, because I would think about him and just go, oh, he's just a horrible individual. So I realized that I needed to do some internal work as well as external work. So you need to clear toxic relationships. I've been working with this guy for over 8 months. So, we when someone works closely with a business like that, you build a very important relationship. So I need to clear that. You need to clear these toxic relationships. And the way you can do that is through NLP parts integration. You can do that through matrix reimprinting, Gestalt therapy, or family therapy. And then what I found was there's a stumbling block, because I'm trained in many of those modalities. So what causes healing to stop are toxic relationships. But how do you quickly find them and clear them? And how can you combine that solution with what you're currently doing? And that's what I worked out. So my work in advanced clean energetics allows you to do that. It's to get there quickly. Because I don't know about you, have you ever done parts integration with NLP? Boy, that's a sucker. It's horrible. And I know Gestalt therapy, it takes forever. And Matrix, absolutely beautiful, very, very elegant. But how do you find that underlying echo quickly and simply? And ACE allows you to do that. It's very, very simple. And as I said, it combines with those other things, just speeding up the process and making it quicker and clearer to find, making it quicker to find those situations and clear them. Let's get on to the next slide. Once you've detoxified the mind and the body, you need to get rid of inflammation. So this is the third step. You need to reduce your inflammation. And that's the answer to the question, what causes excruciating pain? So why deal with inflammation? Inflammation is part of your body's immune response. Without it, you can't heal. So it's necessary. But when it's out of control, as in something like rheumatoid arthritis, it can damage your body. Plus, it's thought to play a role in obesity, heart disease, and cancer. So the other thing is, inflammation causes pain. And what I've noticed is pain can be increased by 10 to 100%. So or even more because of the inflammation. And I've had clients turn around and say, I was in so much pain, it was a 12 out of 10. So we're talking about 100%, 20%, and excruciating, unbearable, can actually make you faint type of pain. And that's what really comes from the inflammation. A good friend of mine, Dr. Diana Stefani Hunyadi, and also an ACE Level 5 Master, says it seems that over 50% of all clients seeking medical treatment in a doctor's surgery are suffering from acute or chronic inflammation. So what causes this inflammation? It's caused by the kidneys retaining water in and around the area in the body that is going through its healing process. So it's a natural thing. We know that it's going on, but it ramps up, it gets bigger, and this is known as a kidney collecting tubule syndrome. In other words, there's more water collecting in and around the area of the body that's going through its whole healing process. And this whole thing is a very old program designed by the body to stop us from dehydrating. So what energetically causes the issue? What causes us to feel this problem is the fight response. Also the what causes us to feel this problem is a fight response, which is anger. It's also a flight response, where we want to run away, which is fear. And it's also a freeze response, where we're stuck, unable to move, where we're traumatized. And these are all to do with how we feel if we are abandoned, left out in the desert or in the freezing cold. And that's what energetically is causing this problem. And it comes from the word inflamed. And if you think about it, if someone just goes, just pushes you out, you get incensed, or you need to run away because you're scared for your life because a group is coming after you. Then that's the flight response. Or something happens to you, and as a way to just protect yourself, you have a freeze response. So this is what energetically causes a problem to occur. So how do you deal with that? You can do that in two ways. The outside work you need to do is to cut out all processed sugar, including grains such as wheat and corn. Okay? They actually cause inflammation in the body. You can also use antioxidants. There's plenty of advice about antioxidants on the web. You need to also cut out all animal-based products from your diet. Why? There's a great book called The China Study, which was made by or put together by a Dr. Campbell and his son. But Dr. Campbell actually went over to China over a 20-year period, and they studied different people throughout various places, various provinces, they call them, within China. And what they noticed is as the Chinese people got more and more into a Western diet, so your white breads and all those other types of things, then what happens was that they got those traditional Western diseases like heart disease, diabetes, cancers, kidney problems, and they put on massive amounts of weight as well. So when they went, what they discovered was that what was happening is the wheats and the corns and all the dairy products as well, that they suddenly started eating in very large amounts were causing this problem. And they were able to categorically prove that animal-based products in large amounts cause inflammation to occur, and also many other problems that are associated with inflammation. So that means all dairy, cheese, milk, yogurt, and products made with dairy products, so eggs, meat, fish, animal-based fats, they're all going to cause that. Now, if you think about it, and I thought this was quite fascinating, I believe most weight loss programs work because you reduce your inflammation. So you see some images from Pinterest there, and when I was looking at that, they were all talking about wheat belly, and it's quite an interesting book I can't remember the name of the author. There's another one called Wheat Grain, I think, or The Grain Brain. That's it, Grain Brain. And it talks about that particular way of just cutting out just wheat will reduce your inflammation. Okay. So you also need to do the inside work. You need to clear the fight, flight, and freeze response around all traumas. And there's an interesting work by Dr. Levine's Somatic Experience, which does that. And I believe then that affects our inflammation, which therefore makes people have less pain. And that's quite interesting. So you need to clear out also your feelings of being abandoned, isolated, left out in the desert, freezing cold and alone. And I thought it was quite interesting to actually just look at this freeze response. So I have a little video because what I realized was if we think that the kidneys are holding on to this need for us to not be abandoned, this fight, flight, and freeze response because we've been pushed out in the desert or pushed out in the cold, what we do as human beings is we hold on to that. And then this causes inflammation, which causes more pain. Whereas animals don't do that. They actually let go of it. So I'm going to show you a little movie. It's only an hour, 1 minute and 54 seconds long. And there's some written stuff, so you can actually just look at that. But also, it's of a polar bear where scientists have tranquilized the polar bear. So they've had a tranquilizer gun. The polar bear, full scientific study, is tranquilized, and the scientist then talks about what happens as the polar bear comes out of the freeze response. And what I want you to understand is that we don't do that. Once we've had a shock and we can't run away or we are frozen, we don't then do this next piece, which is to let go of it. So it's quite interesting. Listen to his comments at the very, very end. Here it goes. In virtually all cases, when an animal survives an attack by a predator and comes out of the freeze response, they will begin to tremble and discharge the pent-up energy. This can be a subtle trembling or as dramatic as a grand mal seizure. The animal is actually replicating, completing the last protective motor muscular survival response he was making just prior to entering the freeze. In the next video segment, you will see the polar bear emerging out of the freeze response.
If you watch that animal after he finishes convulsing, you'll see, because he's aware of the fact that we're all around him, and it's a very stressful experience for an animal like a polar bear. After he settles down, and then he'll start doing a couple of deep breaths, and then he'll breathe really nicely, and it'll really... Now look, here he goes. See how he's breathing there now? You can see, so that even though it looks a little unpleasant to look at him convulsing like that, in fact, it lets off all that stress, and he then is able to relax and sleep the thing off.
Long-term observations of animals who complete this discharge show no adverse symptoms, behavioral effects, or impact on health and well-being. Okay, so very interesting little video there, and the polar bear wasn't hurt by that. So what I found again was that there is this stumbling block. What causes excruciating pain is inflammation, but how do you quickly find the fight, flight, and freeze response and clear them? And how can you combine that solution with what you're currently doing? And as I said, in ACE, myself and my students have pioneered that, and this allows you to basically do that. So if you want to, if you're liking what you are hearing and seeing, and you want to book time with me to learn more, by the way, it's free to do so, then you can do that by just going to richardfluke.com/call now. Okay, very, very simple. And there's an online diary there. And there's also below there some testimonials. You'll find out testimonials from some students of mine. And also there's a couple of other things there as well. So enjoy. So once you have dealt with the udins, release the toxicity, reduce your inflammation, it's now time to heal. Hallelujah, we're almost there, right? So this is about reclaiming your environment. The answer to the question, what causes a chronic illness? So why change your environment? The cells in the body need vital vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in order to repair and rebuild themselves. And in order to achieve that, we need to get away as well from all stressful situations. So we need to change the environment inside as well and outside. So inside, we need vital vitamins and minerals, and that includes work, relationships, and challenging situations. We also need time to heal. So that's why we need to change the environment. So what happens during a disease? When we are under stress, we are in a sympathetic state. So we're working. So the body is working away just like that guy there. He's drilling into the ground. So the body's actually working. When we are resting, we are healing, we are in a parasympathetic state. So there is this whole thing about acid and alkalinity. So during the sympathetic stage, the body is acid. But as the body goes into repair and rebuild, or rebuild and repair, it becomes alkaline. And if everything is correctly in place, in theory, the body can heal itself naturally. So we need to get ourselves into an alkaline state. So when we're healing, we are in that parasympathetic, and what the body needs is alkalinity. So in order to create alkalinity, one of the simplest ways to do that is we need to have foods that are high in alkalinity. So another reason not to have high acid foods, such as wheats, corns, and things that turn directly into sugar, animal-based products as well. So as we're healing and your clients are healing, what they need to do is they need to be able to bathe each cell in highly nutritious foods full of vitamins and minerals that are organic-based, preferably plant-based. The simple answer to that is to do some vegetable juicing. You also need fats as well. Yes, you do need fat. Fat does not cause fat inside a person, but there are certain types of fats that are very good for you. Extra virgin organic coconut oil is just absolutely gorgeous and is now known to be just a perfect type of fat for the body. And you also need to change your work or workplace. And you need to rest as well. So you need to change that environmental situation that is going on. So getting vitamin and minerals into the body, the quickest way to get all these wonderful vitamins and minerals into your body is through vegetable juicing, really, or just juicing per se, and using organic raw foods. Organic is the key. You don't want any more of those pesticides or herbicides, which you got rid of when you were dealing with the toxicity. And also having beautifully prepared soups and salads. I found the easiest way to do that, which again came out of the book, The China Study, was to go vegan, basically. Becoming vegan while you are healing seems a simple way to approach this step, and it works beautifully. Challenging, I know, but if a client really wants to heal themselves, or you want to heal yourself, being a vegan for that time while you're healing is just beautiful because you're bathing each one of those cells in alkalinity. There's no toxic chemicals there to stop the cells from being able to absorb the vital vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. Everything is working beautifully. So that's what can happen. And also you need to do the inside work. You need to forgive. You need to learn to love yourself. Or your clients need to learn to love themselves. You need to let go of old attachments as well. Now, the reason why this is important is because if we don't, we keep thinking about those individuals. We need to also learn to accept who we are. Otherwise, we're not enough, as you can see from this lovely picture from Kate Strong, another one of my ACE Masters. I'm not enough, and you need to let go of those old things. If you don't let go of the old things, you continuously hoard them and keep them by, and just this is a very important piece, and there's a way that we can do that. And in advanced clearing energetics, which is ACE for short, we have a thing called cutting the ties that binds. We cut the connection with you and those people, things, thoughts, beliefs, and places that were energetically connected to your issue, energetically connected to that organ. So the outcome of that is you end up forgiving, and then you also end up learning how to love yourself again. The net effect is, as you change, this is reflected back at you in your environment, and back at the client in their environment. Time and time again, we found this to be the case. Quite amazing. The stumbling block is what causes an illness to become chronic is not letting go of the connections to the disease, basically. But how can you quickly find those connections and clear them? And how you can combine that solution with what you are currently doing? Well, the work in advanced clearing energetics allows you to do just that. Okay, so now you have everything in place. You need energy to complete your healing journey, or your client needs energy to complete your healing journey. Oh, by the way, if you want to discover more, remember, you can call me, set up a time that suits you to allow me to call you, either via Skype or via telephone. And remember, it's free. So the fifth step is to raise your energy. So that's the answer to the question, what causes a client to fail? And why do we need to do that? We need to raise your energy. Is having cleared the udins, detoxified, reduced the inflammation, changed the environment, the next step is your body needs energy to complete your healing process. If your body does not have the energy to complete the process, you can become trapped in a never-ending healing loop. I had a client who had a very high-powered job, and it drove him mad. And then what happened was he tried to solve the problem in traditional medical terms, and that didn't help. He had to leave his job, give that up. And then he started looking at energetic solutions, and had been studying and working in an energetic solution for over, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And that was very challenging. But he'd been doing this and doing loads of work. And he came to see me, and he didn't have much money, and we did a little bit of work. And then he kept coming back to me saying, well, it hasn't worked. And I basically eventually turned around to him and said, it isn't working because you're not focusing on getting over that hump. You're not focusing on the next stage. You're just focusing on your illness, and you're not focusing on your wellness. And he went, huh. And that changed everything. So why do you need to raise your energy? If you're not focusing on wellness, your body does not know where to go. You need to focus on, you need to focus on following the roadmap of your body being in complete wellness, basically. You need to be able to see yourself well. And I liken that to the spiral up and the spiral down. It's like a helter-skelter. It takes more energy to climb up a helter-skelter than it does to go down. And it's the same with healing. You need to continuously focus on being well, and that takes energy. So you need to, if you think about a helter-skelter, you get on top of a helter-skelter, you go all the way down and land at the bottom. Gravity's pulling you down. But imagine if you just were able to try and climb up the helter-skelter. That's quite scary, isn't it? Because the further up you get, the higher you get. And it also takes a lot of energy. And often helter-skelters are pretty slippery too. So the thing is that you need energy to be able to get up this spiral. It needs you to focus. And how do you get that energy? Well, you need to be able to create a good present. You need to focus on where you want to go. And this is a lovely statement by Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle. You create a good future by creating a good present. So here's the secret. When focusing on raising your energy, you need to move mentally and physically. So you need to do something you love, and you need to focus on being well. And to test on something that you love, you've got to say, do I really love doing this thing that is going to give me energy? So how do you do that? Let's say that a lot of people, when they're not feeling well, when they're healing, one of the ways to actually get themselves back to wellness is to go and move. A lot of people just won't. They won't move. They just sit there like a vegetable. But you do need to move. You need to move, allow the bodies and the cells to actually get back into some form of movement. And I'm not saying if you're in excruciating pain that you should do that, but just sitting on a couch, being a couch potato, is not going to solve the problem. Okay, so you actually need to do something to move, and you need to do something you love, something that you're excited about doing. and that can be a multitude of things. So I liken it to finding exercise that you love to do. I particularly found this very interesting when I was healing, was that I needed to do something that I really loved to do, and I especially when I had that pancreatitis, and the thing that I love to do is yoga. And there is this test: do you consistently want to go and do the thing that you love doing? And I particularly found that with yoga, and I discovered that it was quite amazing. I'd always done things like soccer or football. I'd played some sports. I'd even been down the gym and push weights, and I hated it. I hated going to those things. So the secret when you're raising your energy is doing exercise that you love to do. And that could also be spending time in nature. It could be as simple as going and walking in nature, or just getting out and breathing fresh air to start with. It's doing something, it's moving, it's actually raising one's energy. It's getting back into being a human and connecting with the people and the things, and giving your body the ability to heal itself by getting energy inside. There's also the inside work. You need to set regular goals. It's that spiral downwards and the spiral upwards. If you're focusing on illness, that's what you end up more with. So you need to set goals to focus on wellness. You can do this also as well. Another way to do this is through prayer and worship, through meditation. So meditation will raise your vibration because you're literally letting go of the stuff that spiral downwards and just being. So creating a present will give you a better future. Through storing and using energy and chi as well, and using energy healing, something like Reiki. So there's a new process called Ace Your Future, which I've recently developed. And Ace Your Future is a new process that creates what are called next moments. And I'll show you those, which are opposite to Yuden moments. Next moments come from your spirit and are 100% aligned with who you are. So remember, what starts a disease is a change in your environment. That's a Yuden moment. What starts wellness is believing you are well, which is a next moment. And you can see there the opposite. So a Yuden moment is something that's unexpected. A next moment is expected. A Yuden moment is something that's dramatic. Well, in the next moment, it's completely normal. A Yuden moment is something that isolates you. Well, a next moment connects you. And a Yuden moment where you have no strategy, or with the next moment you have a strategy. And so using Ace Your Future allows your spirit to take over the process of taking you to where you want to be. It continuously raises your energy to complete that wellness journey. And that's quite neat. It's going up that helter-skelter point. Because what causes, but there is a stumbling block. What causes clients to fail is they're not focusing on wellness. But how do you quickly make that happen and have it be in alignment with who they are spiritually? And how can you combine that solution with what you are currently doing? As I said, my work in Advanced Clearing Energetics allows you to do that. So this is Advanced Clearing Energetics, and I do have some courses on that. I'm not going to go into detail on that, because if you want to find out more about that, then it's about, let's arrange a time to speak. But I'd just love you to show you a little video of one of my students called Glenda, who's talking about the power of Advanced Clearing Energetics. It's only a couple of minutes long, and we're almost done, by the way. So let's just have a quick review of the 5 keys to healing yourself. And the first one is to redress your stress. That's clear the Yudins. Second is to release your toxins. That's clearing those parts. And reduce your inflammation is number 3. That's clearing the kidney, collecting tubule syndrome. Number 4 is reclaim your environment. That's clearing the unconscious connections. And number 5 is raise your energy, which is covered in Ace Your Future. So let's go and actually see Glenda here, and I'll play that video. It's only a couple of minutes long.
Hi, I'm Glenda Johnson, and I'm a coach that works with other female coaches. I help them become amazing. And I also particularly focus on mental health issues. Recently, I had an issue yesterday, which totally knocked my knee and hip right out. I was in such excruciating pain, probably a 12 out of 10. And so I got a hold of Richard, and thankfully, we were doing his work, advanced clearing energetics, which is so quick. And in less than 2 hours, I love to time things. I'm a girl about efficiency. It took an hour and 45 minutes where I could hardly breathe because the pain was so bad. And advanced clearing energetics allows us to quickly find out where the shocks have come from, and that trapped energy, being lodged in this case in the right knee and the hip. And we identified where those shocks came from, cleared them, and then I went to bed. And this morning I woke up and it's like magic, because there's no pain, no swelling. It's almost like it was never there. And I'm an NLP trainer, and our tools and techniques of timeline therapy and hypnosis are fabulous. There's lots of alternative methods out there and modalities, and they work great. And when I came across advanced clearing energetics about 3 years ago, I always said it was like I found the missing piece. Able to clear out the old shocks, the trapped energy out of the body, and chronic health issues, that they disappear, which is fabulous. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, because I couldn't believe it when I woke up and the pain was gone. So thank you very much, Richard, in Advanced Clearing Energetics.
That's a lovely video, isn't it, from Glenda there. And it explains literally about ACE and the courses that we were talking about. And as you saw, she's an NLP practitioner, and she's done a lot of other modalities as well. And it's amazing how she also combines this work with what she already does. So I'm going to tell you literally in less than a minute what the ACE courses are. There's ACE Level 1, which is this basic clearing strategy. Then there's ACE Level 2, which is all about how do you find the specific, or talk to the specific organs, or communicate with the specific organs that are diseased. The basic strategy, by the way, is the same as like in EFT. You have a set of steps that you go through. It's very, very simple and very easy and very beautiful and very elegant. And then ACE Level 2 is about the organs. ACE Level 3 covers psychological stuff, which Glenda is using in her work. ACE Level 4 is trainer's training, allows you to go off and train ACE Level 1. And then there's Masters, which is ACE Level 5. So we're taking all that information and going further and further. Now, if any of this work does actually interest you, then do find the time to make this happen. Now, how can we make this happen? Let's talk, let's Skype or phone. I will call you. It's free, remember. You can book time with me that's in a time frame that suits you by going to www.richardflook.com/call now. So hopefully you've enjoyed listening to the 5 steps. Let's see if you want to find out more information, as I said, do call me. And Fabiana just want to say something. So Fabiana said, the Ace Your Future transformed my life. It's just absolutely amazing work. Absolutely amazing work. So all of these 5 steps are pretty incredible. Thank you, Fabiana. Thank you very, very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed listening to the 5 steps and how they integrate also into what you already do, and how through doing something like advanced clearing energetics, which is the work that I've been doing over the last 25 years, and combining all that stuff, that you might actually be able to assist your clients to quickly find and clear the underlying shocks that cause disease, and how it can combine, like I said, with what you already do in a very elegant, beautiful way. So we're going to complete for now. Thanks, Fabiana. Thanks, Alea, and other people for being here. And I look forward to actually being able to talk to you. Remember, go to www.richardfluke.com/call now. And until then, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.